first sacred text today is from Luke 24:13 through 16. On the road to Emmaus. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. And as they talked and discussed things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from being recognized. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he was going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. The next text is a poem about Emmaus, written by Nancy MacDonald, the abridged edition. A strange place to make a new beginning, here on a dusty road, not leading much of anywhere, in a time when the ritual seasons have already turned, and at dusk almost dark. In fact, what an unsuitable place and time to begin. And the two of us, plodding along, dull-headed, wet-witted, after 3 days of regretting and recounting losses. Our bodies hobbled and our souls brokered, we moved like confused moths near an extinguished wick. The fire was gone, and now we mourned. Was it sorrow for ourselves or him that we most valued? The answer, we may never know, nor does it matter now. Then, at this point, a stranger joined us. Did he make a third, or were we still just two? We were not sure ourselves, but know for certain, when bread was broken, time was fractured too. And when we rose and left the table, we were definitely ourselves, yet more than ourselves rose up. Bones of our fire now support us, so full of love that it hurts our lungs to breathe. These, the bodies which the third one left us, we dare not guess the features of our souls. The road to nowhere goes on forever, out from Emmaus into a waiting world. Who is that we carry now in witness? What names does he bear that we can call him in the night? It is secret. But this we share with you. When you see him, you will recognize the face.
Thank you, Doug. So this morning we have a treat. Reverend Terri Echelbarger is going to be bringing us a message today, and I'm so grateful for those of you that came a little early to welcome Reverend Terri and her wife Eileen up from Pacifica. So I think they get the award for driving the farthest today. And you may have seen in the Friday news a little bit more about Reverend Terri, or in our email. She'll be with us for a little bit, but we want to make her feel especially welcome today. So thank you for being here today, Reverend Terri.
Hello, cousins. Hello. I've already met some of you, and I look forward to meeting the rest of you in time. So today, the Sunday following Christmas, is often called Cannonball Sunday, because many people skip it, including ministers who almost always try to recruit a substitute in their place, and I don't blame them. Everyone is exhausted. So I'm very thankful that Jess is actually here today, and to each of all of you for showing up, congratulations. You know, Easter has happened, and now people act as if the party is over. But last week was just the first week of Easter. In the liturgical calendar, it goes on for several more weeks, 6 or 7, depending on the moon and which tradition you're in. It's not just one Sunday, and it's hardly a party. It's a whole lot more complicated than that. Is it just me that hears the echo, echo, echo? Like I said, Easter Sunday was not a party. The disciples are locked in a room, scared for their very lives. Maybe the Roman soldiers are going to show up and round them up and arrest them all, purge the city of their presence. They don't know, and their fear is understandable. Then there's the grief, the loss of their leader and friend, what seemed to be the death of a whole movement of hope, a movement for more love and less oppression, a movement that wanted to bring people in, not leave people out. Jesus was only trying to create a loving container for everyone, and there was a lot to mourn. Jesus had died for the sins of humanity, like the greed of empire with collaboration of faith communities, failure to care for the least of these, and all the things that Jesus spoke against that we still do over and over and over, failing to love our neighbor, the sin of injustice, of poverty, of closing our ears and our eyes to the cries of others, for generally failing to work love's agenda, and overall, using fear and power to coerce instead of the power of love to move. Sins of then, sins of now. There had been so much hope for a new way. They don't imagine what's next in that upper room. They imagine it is over. They had believed that with Jesus, the mountain of systemic oppression would move. And at Palm Sunday, it seemed like everything was finally going their way. It had arrived, and now it's just hard to breathe. In my imagination, they tell stories, laugh, cry, as we often do in these kinds of situations. And they aren't the only ones feeling that way. Others who are not in the inner circle have already gone back to fishing. Gotta eat. Some people are on the road back to the places they live, like the men on the road to Emmaus. I love this story. 2 men leaving the largest family-based festival in Jerusalem, who have no women or children with them at all, who take them to their house. These 2 men take Jesus to their house for dinner. I suspect something is not written here. I love that. So anyway, the story starts to spread about Jesus and people seeing Jesus. And sometimes people even today tell stories about seeing those who have died in the distance, in a shadow, in a dream, in a symbol or gift mysteriously left in a special place. It's both a comfort and a challenge. Could that be? Did it happen? Why should the disciples or the followers be any different? In the stories, Jesus appears as transformed, unrecognizable at first to those who see him. There is no story where he's recognized immediately by his appearance. He's only recognized by a voice or his actions or in the breaking of bread. That's still pretty much how I recognize him today. How about you? When most humans are in mourning, time stops. You can't see beyond it for a while. When someone we love dies, it feels like a piece of us has too. The truth is, we ourselves need to be resurrected from those deep places of loss, to rise again from all kinds of little deaths in life. When the women, the disciples, the men from Emmaus recognized Jesus, these are smaller resurrections, transformations, acceptance of change. Something new is unfolding. And what will unfold is new. Things never go back to the way that they were. Have you ever been resurrected? I was raised in a born-again household, fundamentalist household. Think Christian nationalist. You know about them now. I had a cross on a chain around my neck that I wore always, and a Bible in my backpack constantly. But it was a struggle when I recognized who I was, my sexuality, and I had the choice between honoring my body, what my body knew, and honoring what my faith taught, a faith that condemned me. A long road led to the day when I was able to rise up and added a Labras. Who knows what a Labras is? Not so popular anymore. It's a little Amazon battle axe. I had a little charm of a Labras that I added to my cross chain. A proclamation, really, of a unifying of self, of a choosing to be not let to fear control me. And long after I married my wife, Eileen, before it was legal, before it was illegal, in church about 20 years ago. Have you ever been resurrected? Found a moment of rising up, a dream you thought was dead that came back to life, perhaps. There are so many little resurrections. After service today, I declare that you get extra spiritual bonus points for sharing a story about your own resurrection with somebody else. Maybe somebody you don't talk to as often. I believe in resurrection, in transformation, because I see it all around me, in my own story, in the truth of nature, like changing seasons. I see it in the movement from dark to light, both good, both essential. I see it in science, in the law of conservation of mass. You know that? Matter does not die, it just transforms. The transformational process is a law of nature. It's a constant unfolding and this rising and dying again. Everyone in this room is transforming right now. We are growing, changing, dying, rising, and often we fail to see its unfolding, like losing bone loss when we start to age. Snuck up on me. In my imagination, nope. Here's an important truth. While we can't get off the cycle of life, not as individuals, not as organizations, we can have a willingly, gracefully participative action role in the unfolding. We have been given some agency that a flower does not have, and we can rise up to change. If the foundations of our body or our organizations need shoring up before a big remodel can unfold, and often they do, we should do that. At least most of us and almost all organizations need to pause from time to time for a tune-up now and then. I remember my parents were very concerned about calculators. They strongly believed they should not be allowed in school lest we learn to add and subtract and something happened on Earth and we wouldn't be able to have electricity anymore. We don't argue about that anymore. They were concerned about all kinds of things. Elvis Presley and his gyrating movements would, it made him more popular, right? I know that the refusal of my church and family to see me as a beloved child of God killed my relationship to all of it. Today, it's how our younger folks or the next generation is talking about gender and the advent of AI. What is dying? What is rising? How do we dance with it the best we can? What rises comes from what has been, even if we fail to recognize it. One of the things I love to do is work with communities, each as unique as an individual body, helping to facilitate, make easier the transfer from one place to another. And I've engaged with several churches around readdressing their foundations, strategic planning, culture. Bylaws are a culture. Very often bylaws are written in a time when church is one size and now it's another size, or there's all kinds of jobs and people can't do them all because they're too small now, for example, or decisions start to be made mostly at choir practice, or it gets unclear about who's making which decisions and why. Overall, the way things are going aren't quite working as well anymore. Maybe it needs a little grease. And there's burnout and conflict. And I don't know you, but I hope to know you. And if you're somewhat normal, maybe pieces of that are familiar. Dying and rising again are all related and always coming in some form. And so we do need to pause for tune-ups or whole-scale remodels. Where are you in the cycle of organizations? And are your bones strong enough to build upon? So change, transformation, birth, death applies to human bodies, to all of nature, and all the things we build. It applies to our cultures, our organizations, and what is not growing is most often dying, and all of it is normal change, a natural process. As I said earlier, we can plan and manage some change, but we cannot avoid it. To do nothing is not a successful prevention strategy. The disciples at Pentecost will, with the assistance of the Holy Spirit, resurrect themselves into something new. It will not be the same, but it will be powerful. Here's a version of that story. The church won't be born until Pentecost, which you'll talk about later, but I'm skipping ahead. When those who are hiding from the authorities throw off their fear of change and continue on, a moment of unity where they speak many languages, but one unified message, and begin one unified effort. That's a great goal for almost any community, but it's not a given. It's a gift to those who rose again and believed to hope in possibility with the courage to change. The disciples then work and they negotiate to try to find a place for Gentiles in Judaism, try to negotiate for reforms, but those in power didn't want to change, and the political situation was really tricky. People didn't want to rock the boat. So the Jesus movement splits off for its parent, and the ones considered heretics and radicals build a new movement. One that begins in their company tax collectors, I had to say that because it's, just past the 15th, tax collectors and others who were called sinner by the culture of the day. This early Jesus community shared absolutely everything with one another. Today, neither movement looks like it did then. They don't exist in the same way anymore. There are many ways to practice Judaism and even more ways to practice a Jesus-labeled faith. In my opinion, when the Roman Empire adopted Christianity as its religion, most of the actual teachings of Jesus got a lot less popular, especially that sharing everything part. So we're constantly resurrecting and changing and transforming, dying and rising. It's not a straight line, though. It's a process. In our story today, the disciples, as they adjust to impossible news, and we are in the long lineage of their journey. And today, each of us, the cultures around us and the political climate, this church, are the path of death, change, transformation, or resurrection, but with far more agency than a flower. We can help make our paths, and it's not a straight line. Maybe rise up again to meet the day. Amen.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise, we rise, oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you,
Again, if you join me in the benediction, the congregation's part is in bold. Love calls us from our tomb of stuck places and beckons us to new hope, saying, "Rise up." Love calls us from tombs of weariness and beckons us to new life, saying, "Rise up." Love calls us from upper rooms afraid of change with a shout of spirit, saying, "Rise up." Love calls us together, reminding us who we are, with a heritage of transformation and a promise of resurrection, saying, "Rise up, rise up, rise up." May it be so.